19 reasons why you're not getting a job in VFX, games or animation. Alright guys, how's it going? I hope you're doing well, I hope you're having a nice weekend. I thought I would kind of change the content up a little bit and have a pretty in-depth conversation regarding this article. Now this is written by Andrew McDonald. If you don't know who Andrew is, I think he's the co-founder of the Rookies website, pretty cool website. And I think he's a CG supervisor for ILM, or he was at one point. So he's pretty well known in the industry. He's got it, he's been there, he's got the t-shirt. So this article, it really does hit home, and it might hurt a lot of people's feelings, to be honest. And some people might completely disagree with it, and well, fair enough, that's your opinion. Personally, I'm of the opinion that I actually agree with it quite a lot. Probably more, I'm kind of more cynical about it. Now, a lot of people kind of think I'm depressive, which is probably true. But once you reach a certain age, especially in animation, or even any industry to be fair, you kind of have your eyes opened up to the world just a little bit more. And that's nothing to do with being a good artist, a bad artist. I think it's more to do with experience. There is the expression, the older you are, the wiser you are. And that kind of rings true, to be honest, especially in the VFX industry. Now, I've never worked for a big studio. I've done kind of freelance work for big studios, but I've never been in a studio, so I'm kind of coming from a different perspective. But let me just read this article. It's a 10-minute read. Now, this was written 2 years ago. I seen it originally when it came out and agreed then. Maybe my opinion has changed, I don't know. We all know it can be difficult to break into the creative industries. Competition for jobs is global, junior talent is strong, and every month more and more artists graduate for competing jobs. Now, I could go on about the whole education industry and how they've actually flooded the market with basically people that will come in and do the job for half the price, even though they're inexperienced, but let's go on about this. It's not all doom and gloom though. Now, please don't let this discourage you. If you want to go and work with a top games company, work your arse off. If you want to go and work in a VFX company, that dream is possible. It is within your reach. The only person that stops you is probably going to be you. Plenty of great jobs out there. The hard truth is that too many of us are making simple mistakes that can be avoided. So this article is really good. One thing I will preface the conversation with is the truth hurts. And he hits home a lot of these points, so let's quickly go into it. Not understanding the job. You're not showing the recruiter you understand what the actual job involves. Now, if you're just starting off in the industry, it's pretty hard to kind of gauge what you want to do, where your strong points are. You don't really know how the job works, especially if you're in a big production, but you learn that on the job. The harsh truth is that you're not going to be creating the hero character for a film, so you're not going to step in and start animating Spider-Man, right? There's 4 or 5 girls, boys, whoever in line in front of you. You're not just going to quickly jump over the top of them unless you have some amazing talent. And don't get me wrong, there's pretty good raw talent out there, but even at that, there's a kind of pecking order to this. Just like any job, to be honest. You're not going to be lighting or compositing a complex battle sequence. You're not going to be animating an entire action sequence all by yourself. You've got to really ground yourself very quickly. The quicker you ground yourself, the easier it is to hit these goals points. Instead of setting the bar so high, show skills that will support the lead artist. Spend time creating background assets and even props that a hero character might interact with. Now, a lot of this gets overlooked, especially in VFX, especially in film VFX, or even TV these days. But a lot of the assets are 3D, you just don't notice it because they're so well done. Even simple things such as a glass, even glass inside of glasses, a pen, piece of paper, whatever. Trees seem to be the big one these days. These assets all need made, so they always need some sort of modeler or asset guy or whatever just to kind of do these stuff. So try and set your bar just a little bit lower. Create background animation performance loops that are refined and subtle by doing less glamorous projects. Show the understanding of what job will start out as. Now, a lot of big companies like Framestore, for example, is one company that I'm aware of. If you're just starting off at a junior level, what they'll generally do is they'll put you in the rotoscoping department because they always need somebody to do rotoscoping. But it also teaches you how to kind of work with other people. And then once they're kind of happy with you, they kind of judge you and they go, okay, what would you like to do? Would you like to go into modelling? Would you like to go into texture? Whatever you feel your strong points is. And they'll kind of nurture that talent. So don't think you're just going to jump in with the big boys. Applying to ILM, Weta Digital, Riot Games is not to be discouraged. So if you think you've got it, definitely apply. But the chances of getting hired at top tier companies with no experience is very slim. Very, very slim, to be honest. Don't give up on these dreams. Don't stop applying for these jobs and building relationships with recruiters. Now, that's one way that I get a lot of work, is by talking to people, just having a conversation with people normally. You don't need to oversell it. If you think I'm good at one thing, I could maybe do with improvement here. Tell the recruiter that. Say, look, I need to grow here. I need a little bit of a help. And that's how I get started in the industry. It was people throwing a hand out. You'll find that a lot in the 3D industry, that you'll get help from people that you wouldn't really expect it. So don't give up on these dreams. Try as hard as you can. You're relying on a piece of paper too much. Now, I have a big contention with education, especially when they tart it up as media, 3D industry. And I've got a degree, I've got an honours degree. I've also got an HND in broadcast TV and something else, can't remember. I've also got a National 2 in trampoline, but fuck, that's probably worth more than my actual physical degree. And the reason I say this is, I don't want to discourage people from going to higher education, but I think it's a complete waste of time, especially in a creative field. And I kind of touched on this with another user and had a conversation about it. You really need to have a body of work, and some colleges, especially domestic colleges in the UK, they're not really catered for doing VFX. There is a few colleges in America that focus pretty much 100%. I think Dave School was a big one. And they were good because they had contacts and they could get you into certain companies. So just be careful if you want to do education. You just need to think where you're going. And that's pretty much it. You've no solid foundation skills. Now, this is one of the reasons I set on my channel. There's a lot of Blender users out there. A lot of people use the donut tutorial. They get bored. They give up after it. They don't learn the fundamentals. And I mean basic fundamentals. Now, you can be the best modeler in the world, but if you don't know how to set up your scene files, if you don't know how to name conventionally stuff like this, it's pointless, absolutely pointless. It doesn't matter how nice that ZBrush detailing on your dragon if your base mesh doesn't show any knowledge of autonomy. Now, obviously it's a dragon, so it's a bit difficult, but you get the point. Or balance. If you're doing characters, you really need to study form, you need to understand how the autonomy works, you need to know where bones go, you really need to focus it. So that's pretty much just picking up the fundamentals. You're expecting recruiters to watch everything. Now, this is a big one. If you're sending a demo reel in, most big companies will mute the video. They won't play audio in it at all. And the reason for this is because audio kind of drives the narrative of the story. It can be used to pick up beats, it can be used to make cuts, and what they're looking for is visuals without any audio, to be honest. And that's why you might notice that some of the best demo reels, they're just very basic looking, to be honest, and that's the way to do it. It's a great feeling sitting back and watching your own demo reel and looking over your portfolio. It's time to reflect and congratulate yourself on how much your skills have improved. However, don't expect every recruiter to have the same passion for your work. So if you don't catch their attention within 10 seconds, it's off, you're done. You won't get your foot in the door that way. And a lot of people actually don't like having names at the start. A lot of people animate their name. I recommend you don't do that. What I recommend you do is you just put your name in black and white text and have it on the screen very low, because at the end they're only looking at the content. They don't care who you are, where you come from, they just want to know if you can handle that job. So that's kind of one point. You don't have a work visa or a degree. Now, this is one of the reasons that kind of personally holds me back, and it's probably one of the reasons I have a chip on my shoulder. Is I had kids very early on. I think it was 22 when I had my first kid. Not exactly young, but youngish. And then I had 4 within 5 years. Fuck me. Don't get me wrong, I got married in between that time and stuff like that, but I was committed. I couldn't pick my family up and move away. Now, things like my wife's father-in-law, he's got ME, my wife's mother died of breast cancer, so all these kind of things, life kind of gets in the way. So moving abroad for me, it's never going to be an option. Plus, I really love living in Scotland. I can't buy a bigger house for the money that I'm in at the moment, stuff like that. So if you had to go to LA, I'd be basically living in a cardboard box. So you need a work visa. If you don't have a work visa, you can generally get in with some sort of degree. So if you don't have a degree, you might not get in. Now that kind of conflates with what I was saying earlier on about education, and this is where you really need to make your mind up. Getting yourself a degree is a requirement for many countries, and that's pretty much it. Things like Australia. I think Australia, you need a degree and you need so much money in the bank to even go over there. So thinking you can go to New Zealand and work for Weta, you might get accepted for the job, but there's a lot of terms and conditions that come with it. Now the pay is good when you get there, but getting there's a struggle. Don't give up though. It means you should apply for a few local jobs. Now you should always look around. I know a lot of people say, oh, there's no work here, and I live in Scotland. It's a population of 5 million, but there's lots of companies here that potentially it could be a good first step. You're showing the wrong style of work. When applying for a job at visual effects studios, don't show all your cartoony style projects. Now if you're going for something that specifically aims for cartoony, maybe, but you need to match your work to the studio. Now certain studios, you'll notice that they have a certain amount of clients. Like Framestore will do a lot of stuff, or even Weta or Digital. I was going to say Digital Domain. Oh man, I'm getting old. Companies like this, they generally cater towards a certain client. So if you want to do motion graphics, you might want to do something for that, blah blah blah. So what that's saying is, target the job. If you get a nice demo reel, pick a company that you would like to work for and kind of aim towards that. You're creating visual disturbing content. This happens all the time, and it's an absolute red flag for so many reasons. I get it. You have the crews to create anything you want on a computer, and I think that kind of, even more so now with the NFT stuff, having that shocking value, it doesn't work anymore. It's been there, done that, especially in the 90s. However, it doesn't mean you should create a creature that could be used in a science fiction or porno movie. If you enjoy creating content like this is fine. However, I strongly suggest you spend the time in other projects. So try and be sensible with what you're creating. Try and aim for a market. Don't do a mech that's fucking shagging some sort of sheep or something. You know what I mean? Just keep the head. You're showing you cannot work to a schedule. Now this is a big one, especially when you're just learning the trade. Set yourself personal goals. Set yourself time limits. This is why I run Blender Royale, which is why I run it for 45 minutes only. I like to be able to see what you can get done in 45 minutes. Now there's some very good users in there who can finish a project in 45 minutes, and they're getting more chance of getting employed than the people who very struggle with it. Now of course you've got beginner levels, advanced levels, stuff like this, so there's a little bit of mix mash, but it kind of translates into the future. You need to be able to finish and deliver a gig. At the end of the day, you can be the best modeler, but if you can't finish it in the timeline, you're out the door. End of. You've never worked to a brief, and this is the reason why I do Blender Royale. I'll give you a brief. Now it might only be one word, it might even just be a sentence, and if you don't stick to that brief, you generally don't win it. And simplicity, especially with Blender Royale, you actually win. There's nothing more frustrating to a recruiter to having an artist to show random work of arts. You need to show projects that have been created with a solid brief from someone other than yourself. So this is kind of hard when you're trying to do stuff, because you need to land clients, and if you can't land clients, well, this is where you need to work on your own. So this is, I kind of agree with it and I don't. Showing your finished project is great, but you will have a lot more to talk about and discuss with the recruiter if you can explain the brief you worked on towards. It kind of echoes itself here, to be honest, but you really do need to be able to work to a schedule and work to a brief. If you start kind of taking artistic liberties, let's call it, you'll fail the project. Now, the project that I'm working on at the moment, I can't deviate away from their brief at all. I think there's certain elements with it that's wrong and it could be better, and I've said this to the client, but I can't do it. I can't deviate away from the brief. And this is my whole argument between I'm not an artist and execute ideas, and this pisses a lot of people off, to be honest, but I'm not an artist. I execute other people's ideas and then I deliver the project, and this is ridiculous. You're showing you don't care enough. Now, you really need to be passionate about 3D or any job, to be honest. You really need to show that you've got the head for it. You need to show that you're willing for it, you're hungry for it. Just take a look at Michael Jordan when he played for Chicago Bulls. Crazy man. It might seem like a small thing, but presenting your work as a play blast or poorly rendered content is not a good idea. Now, I take the piss when I do my demo reels. I don't have a demo reel, and 2 reasons. Well, 3 reasons. One, I'm lazy and can't be bothered editing. Second one is I don't really need it. I've got a big enough client list. I've delivered the projects. They know how I work. That's fine. And third, a lot of stuff comes under NDA, and it's 2-3 years before I can actually show it. And by the time I show it, it's outdated. So fuck it. You know what I mean? To be honest, it's actually wasting people's time. If you can't take the time to properly present your work, show it, take pride and present your work. So that's just everything here is common sense, to be honest. You wasted your time building a website. Now, I see a lot of people building a website, and it's just poor content on it. You might as well just have a Twitter page, to be honest. Your job application shows that you're lazy. I can't tell you how many artists I've reviewed for jobs, including a half-baked message in their application. Hey, this is my work, it's not finished, but I really want a job, PM me. I would ignore that, personally. I probably would ignore that. You need to kind of show a bit of determination. You need to say, look, I would love to work in VFX. Here's the reasons why. I'm passionate about it, blah, blah, blah. Even a kind of sob story, perhaps. Creating a demo reel with loads of great projects doesn't mean it wants a title sequence similar to a James Bond film. And this is me going back to earlier on. Just put your name in black and white and go over it. You haven't figured out what you're good at yet. And that's a big one, to be honest. A lot of people don't know what they're good at, and you don't really know until you get into the job. If you're good at modelling, stick to modelling. If you want to be a rigger, learn rigging. If you want to do texturing, learn texturing. Just focus as much as you possibly can. You're creating a showreel, not a demo reel. A showreel is typically what you see in production studio who has lots of finished projects. They're showing these part of a sizzle reel to impress future clients, but this isn't actually demonstrating anything. And that is one of the things. I have a client showreel that I show clients if they ask, do you have work? And that's what they get to see, but it's not my demo reel. There's kind of two separate identities, to be honest. When you create a demo reel, make sure it's an actual demo reel. This means you need to demonstrate your skills. So things like wireframes to show that you can handle topology, stuff like this. You have poor communication skills. Now, I know this might sound a bit ignorant, but I have very good communication skills, even though I'm struggling to think of what to say. But being able to have a conversation on a level with a person is much more valuable these days. Just be normal. You know what I mean? Just be as normal as you can. Okay, you can be eccentric, but anyway, you're not being patient enough. And that was my problem, I think, at the beginning. I was never patient enough. I always wanted to do this. And it took me about 4 or 5 years to go, fuck, I need to build up my skill here. You need to be pretty good at this. You're not good enough yet. And that kind of states the obvious, to be honest. You're probably not good enough yet. Now, if you're a new artist, take it easy. Take it slow. Learn the fundamentals. Learn how to speak to people. Start creating content. If you can't create a brief or you can't land a client, start asking friends, do you need something done? Can I help you out here? I might not necessarily want paid for it, but give me a brief and treat me like a real client. I just want to say this is a really good article. Highly recommend you actually go through every single point. Now, I've kind of ranted on a bit too long. Jesus Christ. Now, I've kind of ranted on a bit too long, but do not let any of this discourage you. Try your best. I wish you all the best. I hope you do whatever you want to do. Anyway, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter. Take care.